Andrew Bailey.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. It's a pleasure to be talking on the Land Transport Amendment Bill. Mr Speaker, I've got to say the last couple of contributions by the opposition members have been very useful and thoughtful, but the contributions from the Labor members, who are also members of the Transport Committee, I thought were shameful, actually. And the reason why I say that, both of them, but particularly Ms Sue Moroney, made the allegation or inference that this government is not concerned about how we see these things being enforced around transport issues. And I really do think that neither of them actually have had the time or have taken the time to read this bill. Because, Mr Speaker, as we have heard, there are 6 provisions in this bill. The first 3, I think, are quite relevant about enforcement of obligations. So, just to recap for a moment, the first one deals with strengthening the legislation relating to alcohol interlocks. And for speakers or people listening in from home, these are devices that are attached to the steering wheel that stop recidivist drivers from actually starting a car. And the rules that have been proposed in this Act will mean that effectively for first-time high alcohol drivers or people who are recidivists, they will have to have one of these interlocks installed in their cars. That's the first issue about enforcement. The second issue is about strengthening the framework for managing public transport services. Mr Speaker, I represent Hanura in Auckland. I've been on the train many, many times. I've observed young people coming on, and particularly it's young people I've observed, but it's not saying it's all young people, but who've come onto the train, who have often not paid, have been taken to task by the people on the train and have simply walked off and sometimes getting into the next carriage. The rules in this that are proposed in this Act, or this bill, deal with that quite comprehensively, and I fully support it, having witnessed that. The third issue around making sure we are bringing about adequate enforcement deals with an effective deterrence to reduce the incidence of fleeing drivers. And I do want to compliment my colleague, Mr Stuart Smith, who has proposed some of the measures that are being incorporated. But again, these include quite a few issues around how we deal with these drivers, often younger people again, and the ability to confiscate their cars, which I think is a really important issue around deterrence. The fourth one, which I don't think these opposition members have actually looked at, is actually contained in the 6th, which is sort of covered by this topic, which talks about minor amendments. But, Mr Speaker, if you look at those, they are comprehensive, and I'm just going to read out just a couple about prosecution issues. Allowing a stationary vehicle infringement notice to be served by providing it to a person who apparently in charge of the vehicle at the time of service. I think that's a good prosecution issue. Closing a loophole so that a person whose driver's licence is suspended by the police is also suspended from obtaining a driver's licence. Correcting an error to allow vehicle seizure impoundment warrants to be signed by Justice of the Peace. I think those are all good enforcement things. Enabling automated enforcement of certain traffic signs. And probably the last one, which the previous speaker just referred to, clarifying the powers of the police to take certain actions, including forbidding driving and immobilising vehicles. Mr Speaker, this is comprehensive, and I'm really looking forward to discussing it in the Transport and Industrial Relations Committee.